Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The chairman of the full committee is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Malugin, it's about the consumer, right?
One hopes so.
Yeah, I mean, earlier it was said it's an economic analysis, it's a market analysis. That analysis is driven by the welfare of the consumer. And if you go to any other standard, you start running into problems. You start saying, oh, it's about the content producers, it's about the unions, it's about the workers, it's about the business. If you go anywhere else, you get in problems. And here's the good thing. When you focus on the consumer in the long run, it typically benefits the workers, the businesses, it benefits everyone. But you have to focus there. You get anywhere else, you can create a monopoly where they hire a bunch more people, pay them huge salaries, but that's not good in the long run for the consumer or, frankly, for the country, for the market, for everything else. Is that right?
Yes, I'd say that antitrust can't serve more than one master, and anytime you replace any kind of worthy and understandably concerned group, it's a special interest, and that will displace protecting the interests of consumers. There's only one person and there's only one group that it can be focused on. And the great thing about picking consumers is that at some point in the economy, we're all consumers.
That's the beauty of that standard. And when you deviate from that standard, start playing games, start picking things, start basing it on anything else, I think you run into problems. How's this going to shake out? I mean, it's what, we have to predict everything. But I heard Dr. Yoon talk about, how the marketplace is going to be defined and all that. How you guys give us your sense? That's what we all kind of want to know. Maybe you've said that already. I was in another committee hearing on this Minnesota fraud, so I apologize. But we'll let you.
It's a hardy but a newie. I think. Listen, I agree with what's been said here. Getting that market definition set is going to be hugely important. That affects what market shares we're talking about, and that kind of sets either challengers or these companies up for success, depending. I think any deal that happens is going to be reviewed just because of the size of it. It's going to be reviewed by U.S. antitrust officials, regulators, and then you've heard it all here today. What are they going to be looking at?
Who do you think is going to get the burden? I mean, and this again depends on how they define the market, but who's going to have the burden? Is it going to be on the companies, the merging parties, or is it going to be on the government to show this is anti-competitive? That's sort of the fundamental step that takes place relatively early on in this process.
Who knows what will happen, but since I got to testify today, I will make the prediction that hopefully we have a more expansive relevant market definition that takes into consideration the behavior of consumers. And even if you didn't, you're really only kind of hitting that 30%. So hopefully we have a broader view of how consumers actually
act. Even under the narrow definition, you're close to the kind of the threshold, the 30% criteria, but under the broad definition, no problem. Doctor, I see the doctor shaking his head. You want to weigh in as well?
Oh, that's 100% accurate.
Okay. Okay. I get it. And anyone else? We're going to let the chairman finish up here last, but anything else? I'll even go to the Democrat witness, Mr.
How kind of you, sir. No, I mean, I think, as you said, we want to focus on the consumer, and whether we focus on other things as well.
No, you didn't say it the last round of questions. You said you got to focus on the worker.
But we've talked a lot about the markets, too. I said we can focus on the labor impacts as well, and I think that's under the Clayton Act.
But that's a deviation. That's different.
Right.
That's changing the process. And in the end, in the long run, I don't think that's beneficial. I mean, I want to focus on workers and make sure they have jobs too, but you can't do that because in the long run, it will end up skewing the market. So you said you weren't wedded to the welfare of the consumer standard. I think that's the right standard.
Yeah, I think not solely to that, but I certainly understand your viewpoint too. What I was going to say is I think in antitrust too, it's always the government's burden.
All I'm saying is your viewpoint is going to get us in trouble, I believe, going forward. The viewpoint focusing on the consumer, as Ms. Malugin pointed out, because we're all consumers, is the safest, best, tried and true process. Okay, I said I'd let you talk, so I'll let you talk now.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I mean, it's the government's burden, but as Dr. Yoon explained earlier, there's a presumption of illegality when the concentration levels hit a certain level. So to answer your question, it's not going to be the company's burden to get this through. It's the government's burden to make that case.
That's my read.
But how they make that case will depend greatly on how we draw those market barriers. And we have concerns about competition here for sure, but that work is yet to be done.
Doctor, you get the last 33 seconds.
So I think that if we focus on the most narrowest market, which is the subscription video on demand market, the concentration level there, even though it's likely more than 30%, the market concentration in that market is not particularly high anyway. And the 30% Philadelphia National Bank threshold has zero basis in economics. It's more seen as a necessary condition, as a sufficient condition. So even under that narrow market definition, I don't know if this is a slam dunk, but there are lots and lots of problems with that narrow market definition. By definition, it's a relevant market, so whoever defines that market, that says that everything else is irrelevant, and that would include YouTube, and others, and just not the case.
Chairman, thank you for this important hearing, and yield back.
Chairman yields back. I just wanted to wrap up, I guess. I'll recognize myself for 5 minutes, but I think what it comes down to is, and what we've heard a little bit today, is let's actually think about how real people actually make the decisions on what they're going to use as their entertainment value. And I think, if somebody now says, it seems like one of the hotter shows right now is Landman. So if your neighbor or your friend says, hey, have you seen the last episode of Landman? The first thing you're going to think is, I don't know, because what's it on? What's it being streamed on? So, and then the family makes a decision as to, we're going to sign up for Paramount Plus because we don't have it right now, but I do want to watch Landman. Okay. Then you have the sports issue, which is you have NFL teams right now that are on 5 different streaming venues. So the level of frustration I hear from the constituents back in the 5th District is, why are the Packers on Peacock 3 times this year? So I don't know that the mergers necessarily change that, because no one's shopping for the actual network. What they're doing is they're shopping for the content, right? So from my perspective, I think the last administration really did not look favorably on mergers, right? I mean, every merger was suspect right out of the gate, and what we found was that that's not always a bad thing. It depends on the market, it depends on the content, and it depends how it's being delivered, and I think that was underscored again today. So I just want to thank the witnesses for participating today. And we do have a couple of unanimous consents. An article published in Wall Street Journal authored by myself titled, "A Merger Could Bring Better Streaming." I think the ranking member should offer that one on my behalf. An article published in Town Hall titled, "Netflix Warner Brothers Deal is Free Market." And an article published in Town Hall titled, "The Netflix Warner Brothers Deal Puts America First." So without objection, those will be added. And we thank everybody for participating today, and certainly want to wrap up with not only, I think, thanking everyone for being here, but just hang on one second. Without objection, all members will have 5 legislative days to submit additional written questions for the witnesses and additional materials for the record. Without objection,